For more on that ABC presidential debate, we can go over to Philadelphia to our correspondent, Fraser Jackson. Fraser, what was the big takeaway of this debate?
I think that soundbite is hard to get out of your head. There was an audible gasp in the room when Donald Trump said that. He'd spent the day sharing AI pictures of himself surrounded by cats on Trump Force One in a nod to that story, which has of course been debunked, and he was fact-checked live when that happened. But that was certainly a moment that definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. But policy-wise, it was a wide-ranging debate. The overarching theme, which most people care about, as most polls say, is of course the economy. Kamala Harris put forward her plan that she said would help first-time home buyers. She wants to help people who are starting up new businesses by giving them a $50,000 tax break ultimately, and then building around 3 million houses with tax breaks for companies that help build those houses as well. She also railed against Donald Trump's proposal, which is to impose taxes on imported goods up to about 20%, up to about 60%, however, on goods coming from China. Kamala Harris said that would raise the cost of everyday items for Americans. Donald Trump said that it wouldn't, and that his tariffs on China had been so successful that the Biden administration was still maintaining them to this day. Abortion, arguably, was where Kamala Harris had her strongest section. That's something that Donald Trump has flip-flopped on quite a lot in the last couple of weeks, and Kamala Harris has been speaking about this ever since Roe versus Wade was overturned in 2022, and it's become quite a significant part of her stump speech even before she became the Democratic nominee. There was, of course, the border that was brought up as well. Donald Trump trying to tie the high levels of mass migration that we've seen into the United States at the feet of Kamala Harris, once again calling her the border czar. But there was one moment where Kamala Harris in that section definitely baited Donald Trump and mentioned his crowd size, and really it was all downhill from Donald Trump from there. We moved in to the section on January 6th, where she was talking about how Donald Trump was a threat to democracy, and Trump then pivoted back to the border when it was his turn to talk about that. And when it came to the 2020 election, there was a moment about 2 weeks ago where Donald Trump said that he lost the election by a whisker. Well, when that was brought up tonight, he said that comment was actually sarcasm, that he still believed that he didn't lose the 2020 election. There was some personal barbs thrown in there from both sides, really, but definitely more so from the Donald Trump side. There was a very light foreign policy section where Donald Trump argued that the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine would not be going on if he was in charge, and Kamala Harris put forward her position on those that have been well documented in the past as well, and a quick section about climate change and Kamala Harris's race before we then got into the closing arguments, where Kamala Harris put forward her vision for an America that works for the everyday man and for the hopes and dreams of Americans, and Donald Trump put forward his closing arguments by starting by attacking Harris, saying that she's done nothing in 3.5 years, and then started to talk about Germany's energy needs at one point, before then saying that we're a failing nation, that people all over the world were laughing at the United States, and that it was all the fault of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and that she was more of the same. So a wide-ranging debate, but the feeling in the room is that Kamala Harris came out on top when all is said and done at the end of the day here.
And the debate was barely over, and it was already being overshadowed by news that music superstar Taylor Swift announced that she would be voting for Kamala Harris. How big is this in the context of the election?
Yeah, I think this is something that we've been waiting for really for quite some time. Taylor Swift has come out in the past in favor of Democratic candidates. Now, she's normally relatively apolitical, but she did come out in 2018 in the midterms to encourage her fans to vote. And when that happened, there was a spike of 169,000 voter registrations within 2 days of that post in 2018. To put that in context, in the 30 days before that post, it was just 59,000. So over 110,000 more people signing up in the wake of Taylor Swift's post. She then had another impact during the 2020 election where she endorsed Joe Biden, and all eyes really are on how much of an impact she will have now in this election. We've been speaking to a couple of people about what impact she could have, including Anthony Scaramucci, who was the former White House communications director under Donald Trump and is now turned into a Trump critic. Take a listen to what he said.
I think it will have an impact. I think that if you look at the vice president's base of voters, they're young people. And I think young people are energized by her. I can speak about my 28-year-old daughter who loves the vice president and is going to be out there voting for the Taylor Swift thing on the margin is beneficial because it creates momentum. And one thing that Taylor Swift is very good at is bringing out the registrations. Remember, she gets the registrations in her category of people that want her to win the presidency. There's such a close election that on the margin, that'll take her over the top.
Well, there again, you hear about those registrations coming from Anthony Scaramucci. That also something being backed up by the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who said to us that she was a musical icon and that Donald Trump would underestimate her at his peril. Of course, Donald Trump has railed against Taylor Swift in the past for what he perceived as her being a Democrat. That now then coming to fruition. She has 260 million followers on Instagram. That is way more than the roughly 25 million that Donald Trump has, for example. So it could be an influential impact on the election, and we'll be dissecting, no doubt, over the next couple of days why she chose to do it now rather than later down the road, as she has done in the past.
Well, it certainly seemed like inopportune timing for Donald Trump. Thank you very much for that, Fraser Jackson in Philadelphia.